It is 5:47 p.m. I'd like to welcome you to the SNA meeting on October 16, 2013. And we're going to go ahead and do a roll call and attendance. We'll start off with John Bowen. Here. Joseph Bryant.
Here.
J.D. Shrest. Here. Richard DeShields.
Here.
Sarah Feeney.
Here.
Miles Glover.
Here.
Sharon Jonasson.
Here.
Kay Kinnison.
Here.
Robert Lane.
Here.
Robert Mosier.
Here.
Avery Pillay. Todd Shiver.
Here.
Ashley Stubbs.
Here.
Derek Whittam.
Here.
Connie Williams.
Here.
And Jacob Whitman. Here. All right, we'll move on to agenda approval. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda for October 16, 2013.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move the community pictures up to right before the individual reports, since the photographer is ready.
JD second. Any discussion?
Discussion. I need to get an agenda.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Community pictures are now under or above reports. We'll move on to subsection 4. I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of minutes from October 9th, 2013. Robert, so moved. Is there a second? JD, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, one abstention. Motion passes. We'll move on to reports. Oh, committee pictures. We just moved that. All right, so we'll go ahead and do our pictures. I think the photographer's ready to go. So
Yeah.
all right, so I'd like to continue on with the agenda, and I'd like to thank Rich for taking our photographs.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Rich. We appreciate it.
Appreciate
Making
it.
us look good. Make sure to Photoshop it up.
Yeah. Lots of
Lots.
Post-processing.
All right, so we'll move on to subsection 5, reports. And I do have something to report. Matthew Baird, who is a member of the SNA committee, had to step down. He's currently not on the Ellensburg campus, so he emailed me and wanted to forward that message onto the board and formally apologize. So we are looking for 2 positions to fill. So if you know friends, let them know and tell them to apply on the ASPW website, newly remodeled. And so that's my report. So we'll move on to the advisors.
I have nothing other than when we get to the subcommittee. Sharon.
I do have one quick item, or items that kind of go together. Yesterday I attended the Budget and Finance Committee, and I presented the budget. It is, so the recommendation of the $275,000, even though it's informational, they were supportive of that. They did have some questions back about, is there going to be a little bit more consistently on how you fund things, and I actually gave them an update that there was a subcommittee formed to look at those items. And the second item that was voted on regarding the mandatory pay increases to take care of that 3% for exempts that are within our programming. That also was approved to move forward to the Board of Trustees. So we'll get a final approval once it goes through that last step.
All right, cool. Thank you, Sharon. Connie? Are you-
No, I-
Nothing?
Nothing.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the subcommittee draft, and I think, Joey, you wanted to speak about that?
Well, the subcommittee did meet. We met earlier this week. Got some initial things down, but the subcommittee as a group decided to push that back to present the formal guidelines that we're going to bring forward, so we can spend a little more time on getting those finalized before bringing it to the larger group as a discussion. So we'd like to bring that up next week, hopefully. and share those legal guidelines by August.
Awesome.
Okay, so are we not going to show what?
We can, yeah. That's what I was going to. You want to talk about it?
Did you want
I
to?
just didn't know if we were just bypassing. So again, the committee felt strongly that they didn't want to make a rash decision, but we're starting to work with a bit of structure, and everybody feel free to jump in that meeting. I went through and made some adjustments. We started with a draft form that its intent is for individual use to help keep them on track and a way to gauge the requests in a more consistent manner. It is not meant for dissemination back to presenters. It's strictly a tool for individuals to use personally. So, and I did state that in the bottom right here, so that people understood that it is not something that then gets turned in and that's how we determine. It's more to help you gauge what type of motions you want to make or support. So this is very, very rough right now, but it talks about regulatory compliance versus the SNA guidelines. And then we put in some common themes like educational component, if a conference who's presenting impacts to students and the university to kind of get volume or some type of information to get you thinking about, well, what is the impact back? And then contributions, shared costs or other revenue sources. And then we have a matrix that is, all of this is up for suggestion, but there is a matrix there. I think what the committee struggled even more with is how do we look at, one's a screening tool that just helps us guide us through the questioning process, and the other was, do we want to set up guidelines to say what we are going to fund versus not fund? So I took a lot of the comments that I heard and I put them in this format. But again, I want to stress that it's draft. There is concern that because we can receive such a wide range of requests and students can be very unique in how they put together requests for supplemental funding, that we didn't want to over-restrict it that could potentially send a message that don't come to us. So it is strictly guidelines. Did I say that right? Okay. I don't know if anybody will open it for discussion. You're open for discussion.
So we'll open this up for discussion. Does anyone else have anything to say? Any of the subcommittee members?
I don't think we set up another time to meet again happen. So
This one.
We could discuss stuff before we do that, but just wanted to raise that point.
Okay. Do you want to set up another time right now or after the meeting?
Probably easier after.
Yeah.
After?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. I'd just like to reiterate the fact that that form's internal, so make sure it doesn't get out to the groups, because there's going to be personal comment, personal opinion on there that might hurt some, might give us a bad look. So make sure that form stays internal with us.
maybe after voting is done, we should suggest that they're collected by
Collected.
one of the advisors and we would just
Yeah.
shred them.
That's a good idea. All right.
Is there any, question, are we gonna put any of the guidelines, or things that we're gonna be asking students about or looking for, make that public to groups of, I mean, that might already be there, but.
It is
I don't know.
pretty much in the, if you were to look at the overall guidelines, it does have that's for sure.
Okay, I'm just
But-
wondering if there's any extra points or points of clarification that we add that groups would wanna be aware of that we think about.
That's really a good question, and I was actually thinking about that while we were going through it. Would there be any harm in putting a blank form there so that the groups knew kind of what areas we're looking at, or do you think that would not be a good idea?
I think it would be good for them to have some kind of idea, but if we didn't put it in a form format so they didn't know there was so there isn't a form out there, so they don't request the form. I want to see this. But if we do a type of a write-up saying, here are different items considered by the committee, or I don't know, some type of a document.
Can you go back to the form?
Yeah, the reason I thought that was so important is if, you know, I would hate for a group to come and not be aware that we're going to be looking at
Mhm.
some of these items and not be prepared to answer those questions.
Yes,
And
I
so
agree.
I think it really would be helpful for them.
Mhm. So maybe even in the supplemental request they fill out, we could say, consideration is given where we are looking for items such as educational component or impact to students, or we could maybe even incorporate some of that in the actual form that they fill out for the supplemental request to say that these are items that you may receive questions on that we're.
I think that's a good idea because then we'll have the information here. Because a lot of times if they're presenting, they might get nervous and forget some of that information that we need. So if they write it down previously, we'll also have it in front of us.
Well, and hopefully in their request, then they would incorporate some of those answers up front in their supplemental request.
Sure.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Any other discussion on this topic?
I think it's just important to reiterate your guidelines and not line by line rule.
Okay,
That's really important.
that's good.
And I think I put that in several places
Yeah.
because I've heard that.
Guidelines is
many times.
underlined.
Underline guidelines.
Okay?
Hey, Jacob.
Yes. Oh,
Way down.
All the way down there. What's going
so
on?
What I would say is that it might be a good idea to have a document that says to maximize your results when coming to SNA asking for something, please address these following things.
I wouldn't necessarily use that wording because
Sure.
they might expect more funding.
Right.
But something along those lines.
Yeah,
You know.
like we would expect that you would be able to explain these things.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, that's a good idea. So I think that's something the subcommittee can talk about in their meeting. Any other discussion? All right, so we'll move on to public comment, our first section. Subsection number 7. Rich?
Just public comment on the comments that were just made. I would encourage, anytime you have a form, just remember that when you take notes, no matter what they are, that they could become public records. So just remember that, because I heard that there were some comments like you wouldn't want other people to see those things, but even if we gathered them back, they would become open for public records. So just always remember that as you take any notes, that your notes could be called upon. So I want to make sure y'all remember that.
Question for Sharon maybe. So would we be able to shred those documents if we did write them out at public meeting?
Well, if they're subject to, I would
If
guess
there's-
not.
I guess we can't shred them if they're subject to.
What you would have to do is to come up with a records retention policy and just have it written what the rules are.
Okay.
And that we had that as a policy saying that we kept them for this long and then they'd be shredded afterwards. And we work with the business services and contracts on developing what our retention record policies are. There are some in the state based on certain type of documents, but like personal notes typically for 1 year, and then like your minutes are for another period. Kay has some of that information, I think.
Rich, Tony actually works in the area for me in business services, so I will run this past her, describe what we're doing, and ask how long, and if we can shred, and if we can't, how long we have to do
Okay, sounds good. So get back to us on that next week.
it. Sure will.
Any further public comment? All right, so we'll move on to subsection number 8, supplemental funding requests, voting. We have 2 requests last week, one from PRSSA National Conference and 1402 is from Family Studies Annual Conference. So, so I'd like to open up the floor for discussion on subsection A, 1401 PRSSA National Conference requesting $3,500. Connie?
I had basically 2 points. I think this is an excellent call I did a little bit of research on the conference. It's an excellent conference, but it does focus on professional development. And that's always a little bit of a concern for me because it's, I'm not sure how that can benefit the wider audience in the club or the university. They did mitigate that in the presentation by saying that they would present the information to the other students, so it would benefit the other students in that particular area of study. So I guess I have to ask myself there, but they did put in a large donation. I think it was $1,000 of their own proceeds. I still hesitate a little when the purpose of the meeting is professional development.
I agree with you on that, Connie. And I'd also like to reiterate the fact that they are presenting there, so they're going to be able to come back and bring information on how it was to present and also how it was to see other presentations. And that's probably the biggest fact that I like, is not only are they going to experience it as an attendee of the conference, but they're going to experience it as, hey, we presented, and they're going to be able to bring back that information, that experience as well. That's something that I really like about what they're going to be doing. So.
Are they actually going to be presenting?
I did ask, yes.
Good, okay, I missed that, I apologize.
They're presenting at the conference, professional conference, with their advisor.
Okay.
So
And they're presenting on a student-run PR agency.
that is right.
And not only on A's, but specifically Central's. So students, and they're pretty much been asked how have they done so well with this, and they're presenting on that. So not only is it just them presenting on the accomplishments that they've done, but it's been noted by this conference. And that's what's interesting.
Good advertising for
That's great.
And they even put in here, this year the opportunity has helped, I'm quoting, this year the opportunity has helped many PRCSA members to become prepared for professional world and also make a transition to professional themselves. And I think that is going to help more than just the students who go. It's just the fact that they were part of the central PRCSA.
That's a very good.
One of the things I like to look at when weighing a decision is it going to hurt them to not go, or is it going to benefit them more to go? And I think this is one instance where it'll benefit them more to go, because they're going to have more information to bring back, rather than if they didn't go, they're going to be at a standstill. And like JD said, it helped in the past as well. So I think weighing, supporting them versus not supporting them, I think personally they brought back information in the past, and they showed that. And like I previously stated, they're going to be on both sides of the conference this time. So, and it's great advertisement. And one of the things, I asked them people per hotel room, which is 4 per room, and that is showing that they are trying to cut costs as much as possible.
Yeah, the costs that they're asking for are they're well within.
I think it's also important to notice that the amount of money that the club is supporting is $150 short of exactly what they're asking. So they put in a lot of, they basically supported a third of it themselves, and completely themselves, whether through the budget or personal pay, and what they're asking us for a third, and they're collecting a third from someone else.
Any further discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Question.
No.
Question.
Any dissent? That's right.
No.
All right.
Is there a motion? No? Someone's got to make a motion, right?
At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to fund PRSSA for the amount of
No, they said
Okay. Okay. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to fund PRSSA National Conference.
Did you say not to say an amount?
No.
As listed?
Whoever is doing the motion would set the amount.
I'm entertaining the motion.
Oh, okay.
So you can choose to fully fund it or only partially.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to be fully funded.
Do we need to state
You want to state the amount for the record?
3,500 is stated on the agenda.
Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
JD, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. All right. Motion for $3,500 to support PRSSA National Conference has been approved. So, Sarah?
Before we talk about the next group, I just want to let everybody know that I have a conflict of interest, so I'm going to be abstaining from the next vote since it's the family studies program and I'm in family studies, so just
Okay.
let you know.
All right, thanks for that. So we'll move on to subheading B, 1402, Family Studies Annual Conference is asking for $6,570. I'd like to open up the floor for discussion.
I'd like to point out that the first two of the, the first two learning objectives that they outlined in their actual form is enhancing networking skills and expanding professional contacts, and then which is then followed by creating a better understanding of the graduate school program. Undergraduate school program. I think it's kind of important to know, at least from my personal opinion, is this seems a little bit more networking based. As the first two are exactly networking and not so much more of a learning objectives. But I do also think it's important that they are doing all their food on their own. And they said that 50% of conference attendance last year ended up going to credit school, which is pretty impressive.
Connie?
I'd like to make the point, continuing with what JD was mentioning, is that there are 18 people going, and I do not believe they're presenting. I may have confused both of them, but I thought the question posed to this particular one, and please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, was that they actually were going to be presenting at this conference.
Yeah. Just to clarify, and again from my notes, is that there wasn't a presentation at this conference, but some of them would be potentially submitting source for source when they return back.
Can I clarify that too? So our students can't actually present at this conference because they have to submit a full proposal, like their research project has to be completed by March 1st. And they do their research projects their senior year. So we're thinking about maybe for next year, students who go from undergraduate to our graduate program could maybe submit a proposal and still be students when they present. But a lot of students, they do the research their senior year and then they're no longer students after that, so they can't present. So that's the main reason why our students aren't presenting.
What's the criteria for students to attend?
Criteria for students to, like what?
To attend this
Criteria the club
conference?
use? The club use, or does the conference organization?
The club. I mean, who gets to go and who doesn't get to go?
The students who have been very active in the club, who've been participating in fundraising activities, and who say that they can front the money, if that's an issue for students as well. They went over that in the presentation by
Ashley?
Yeah, I would like to actually answer. I took some notes on that, and for the number of students going, I have to say I was a little disappointed that they said that there weren't necessarily any guidelines or requirements for those students attending, other than their participation in the club. And if that was the case, considering that this conference happens so early in the year and so close to the beginning of the quarter, I would have hoped that maybe some fundraising would have been a little more successful, that they could have anticipated in the spring that they were planning to attend, and that the $1,000 fundraising on the line item at the end is anticipated when they presented that there was only $475 in their account, and that is a part of the anticipated $1,000 fundraising.
Can I also clarify that there's 16 students, not 18?
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Rob?
How many students usually go on conference? Like, is 16 students going on this conference considered a lot, or?
How many members? I guess
Because-
it
Depends on the program.
Because
Yeah.
when we asked, they had 32 total undergrads and 7 graduate students. And for a conference where they're just going to be listening to presentations, and I kind of wonder, is 16 people too many?
So, it's a good question. I think that what this committee can do is not really determine how many students they'll fund. It's, so if we don't fund the whole amount, they could take less people, or they could use SNA money to contribute less to the 16 could go, but they'd have to have more out of pocket. But as far as this committee goes, we really don't have any control over how many students go. Am I right, Sharon, along those lines? I mean, if we say, well, we think 10 students should go, so we'll fund 10 students, and we'll give, that'll be $4,000. Well, they can still take the 16 students and use that $4,000. So I don't know if that's a moot point or not.
Yeah, Sharon?
So Todd is absolutely right. The committee has over time used part of the justification of saying, I would like to fund X number of dollars because I would like to fund. I'm calculating that by estimating the attendance being 10 over 12 or whatever the difference between the ratio of what they requested and what that person making the motion felt was justified. Now the committee, not the committee, but the club or the requester themselves have the opportunity then to take those funds and look for other fund sources if they feel strongly about taking all the members that they originally requested, or they could scale back the number of folks going. So it's totally up to the travelers at the group at that point to decide at what level they're and how many people to take. Our office then takes over to ensure that the amount of funding they received was used for items that are eligible within the state guidelines.
And if I could just tag one more thing onto this conversation.
Go ahead, Tom.
Something I didn't realize that was maybe surprised me a little bit at first when I first got on the committee. But let's say we're looking at this budget and we say, $350 for taxis and vans and taxis. We're not going to pay for that, so we're taking $350 off. Well, and we give them 6,200, whatever it is, minus that.
220.
But since this was in their original request, the money we give them, if they choose to spend $350 on the taxis, I mean, that's their prerogative, as long as it's a legal expenditure. They obviously can't all buy themselves a gift or something. But this was in their original request. If they choose to rebudget and spend less on airfare or registration so they can cover the vans and taxis, they can do that. So I think you need to kind of remember that.
I completely agree with you on that, Todd. I remember from the presentation last week, I'll get to you in a minute, is the presenters had talked about, at the time, purchasing the cheapest flight possible, and at this time they had budgeted for a more expensive flight because it's impossible to tell. I mean, we've all booked flights, I think, and it's not, it's hard to tell in the future. So like you had mentioned, this is going to be the highest number possible. And another thing I'd like to mention is I think we talked about consistency, and you got to remember there's 16 people going, and they're asking for a larger number, but it's also 16 people rather than something we just approved for 8. So we want to stay consistent. Obviously, it's different scenarios, but I would like to keep that in check, is watch for that consistency as we make our decisions. So,
what I was going to say was that the information presented by this, I believe it's a club or just the people in the Family and Studies and Consumer Science, it seems to be a lot about personal and professional development, but it doesn't seem like they're putting a very large amount of their own money into it.
And
because it seems like
last
they're
week they
asking the
talked
vast
about
majority of money from the school to pay for essentially personal development.
And last week they talked about, just to play devil's advocate here, coming back and presenting at source, having multiple source presentations. And I know in the past they've done that as well. So they do have the consistency of presenting at source. They're a pretty consistent group. So keep that in mind.
And they won awards last year. So
They've won, yeah, they've taken awards. Rob?
They said that 4 students presented at source. So, I mean, I think that if we were to see that number increase, if they were to take 16 people, that'd be good to see.
I want to also point out that there was actually more students that presented at a regional conference as well. So they did, some of them presented at source, but then there's a regional branch of the Northwest Council on Family Relations, and we have an annual meeting in Portland, and I think it was like 8 or 9 students presented at that. So a larger number presented at that than at source, but yeah.
That's good. There's also one thing I noticed, a huge community benefit to this, because they mentioned internships in Ellensburg. So while there might be some personal growth in these conferences, they're also bringing it back to not only Central but to the community as well, and that's a large impact. So we try to bridge that gap too. So definitely think about that. Any further discussion?
Well,
Todd?
I'll just say, this is where it gets difficult, because, you have you have nobody presenting, but there's no opportunity to present at this conference. Well, there is opportunity to present at the regional conference. Should these students be penalized? If there's no, this is where it gets kind of touchy. And I think this is where the guidelines, this is a great example of where the guidelines, would come in handy, for the groups. Because, we do have a lot of groups that attend conferences, and they attend conferences for personal professional development and networking, and that is a benefit. A huge benefit to going to professional conferences. That's what we tell our students too. So, but I guess even if we had our guidelines, this would be tricky because they don't have it. There is no opportunity to present. So,
I agree with you on that. And I think that's where you look at the history of where they presented. I mean, 4 at source, 8 or 9 at a regional conference. That's 12, 13 different presentations.
Right. And I think they did present in the spring, or we're going to present in the spring, and then they delayed it for now, right? Isn't that correct?
We can't get further information. Okay.
Oh, I thought we could ask them questions.
No, no new information can come in this week. So.
Oh,
yeah. Is that right?
They said that last week.
Okay. Yeah, they said it last week. And I think, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one more point about the number of students of this. This proposal was really about 2 different groups of students. It's our graduate students and undergraduate students. So it's more than just one sort of club. It's really kind of 2 clubs and it's serving 2 purposes. For the graduate students, participation in national research conferences is just important. So consider that 6 of these students are graduate students. And that's what helps bring the number up so high.
Okay. Yeah, and you can ask the gallery for new information. I was getting that mixed up with the conflict of interest with Sarah. So.
Oh.
Still learning.
It's okay.
Yeah. Any further discussion on this? And I believe this is a group we've historically funded. No? Last fall, but not the spring. Yes. Okay. That's something I'd like to look at. I believe what had happened was they had requested the funds in the spring for this conference, and the past SNA had got confused thinking that they were requesting for the same conference twice. No? Okay. Well, let's look at the history of it.
So this is last fall of 2012.
Okay.
And they looks like they asked for 15,000 and were funded at
There was two.
So they came back, so what happened, can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Shannon.
don't want to break the rules.
Yep.
So what happened was, they were funded in the fall, but there was a lot of back and forth of why didn't you come the prior spring so that we would have
Okay.
known. And so then this year, I have to get my ears right. So they came back, because they attempted to, and we said, you know, we heard their request last fall, and we said, hey, next time you should present in the spring for your upcoming. And they said, yeah, we tried that, but we couldn't get on your agenda. So they came back in late spring to say we would like to get funding for the upcoming fall, which is this request now. The committee, for quite a few different reasons, chose not to fund it, so then they brought it back this fall again to ask for reconsideration.
And in the minutes from last time, when they presented some of the notes that were made about why they weren't funded, or at least part of the discussion, some of the notes were that they weren't seeing funding or weren't seeing presenting at source as much, presenting anywhere. So they clarified that presentation that they didn't present at source in other places.
Any further discussion? JD?
I'm just checking my math here to make sure this is right, because I don't want to say something and be wrong here. That would not-
Yeah, that's never fun.
Okay. Never mind.
Okay. Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to fund this in the amount of $2,400. With that funding, basically, as Dr. Schreiber pointed out, we cannot limit the amount of people. We can't put a limit on the amount of people that the club can take. However, this would provide adequate funding for 10 people based on my math. And it would still include the vans and taxis and parking at a total of $350. And I think that 16 people for a conference that we're not presenting, so we can't present. I think it's quite a few, and especially for the amount of, for people coming back to, the people are going to come back and present to the family studies program here. 16 people is quite a bit of people to send just to come back and present.
Double check your math on that. If it's, they're asking 6,570 for 18, and you're saying
For 16.
Oh, and then you're going to 10.
Yeah.
It's 2,000, so it seems like 10 would be closer to 4 or 5
I did math that it was $695
per person.
I think it might be a little.
Oh, yeah.
How many?
695. Yeah.
Point of information, just for those, a reminder of the process, is that if anyone is choosing not to agree with the amount that JD has proposed, they can choose to amend the motion for a different one, and they would say that have to get JD's approval to amend that to the new price. So,
Not a second to the motion.
So I can break down my math. There's $245 for registration, $350 for airfare, and $100 for a hotel. And so that's a total of $695 per person. And then I threw in the $350 for vans, taxis, and parking. Then I took out the $3,000 they're getting from Club Senate, the $1,000 they've allotted from fundraising, and the $900 from student academic setting, which leaves a total balance of $2,400 from SMA. And so that would be, and that would allow for 10 people to be completely funded by SMA. And that's assuming that the cost of vans, taxis, and parking stays the same, which you probably would need some vans. I originally was going to do math for like to fund 8, but I think that if you're going for 10 out of 16 is still better than
I'd like to recognize the gallery and ask a question. Were you fully funded by SAS?
We don't know yet.
You're not sure yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob, there's a motion on the table right now.
Oh, okay.
So you'll either need to ask if there's a second.
Okay, currently there's a motion on the table for supporting Family Consumer Sciences for $2,500, $2,400.
Yes, there's a motion.
Seconded by Miles. Any discussion? I'd like to recognize the gallery. Are you fully funded by SAS?
We will not find out yet, we haven't.
Okay. And Club Senate?
Sentence tonight, so we're not sure yet.
They're there right now.
They're there now.
Okay. 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 Any further discussion?
Now that there's a motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay. I'd like to move on to subsection 9, supplemental funding request presentations. Heading A, 1403, ASCW BOD Student Life Facilities requesting $2,540.56. And I would like to bring up a conflict of interest. I'm also on this board of directors. I do not work in this office, but I sit on the board with this member, so I'm going to remove myself from this conversation.
That means that Ashley's down.
Ashley, you're now the chair.
Let's just straight.
Yeah. My seat's a little warm.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so for request 1403 from the CWU BOD, we'll now hear from Scott Casme. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you all, everyone, for your time tonight. If you don't know me, my name is Scott Casme. I'm the Vice President for Student Life Facilities for Student Board of Directors here on campus. And I am requesting tonight for you to help my office fund just a great long-term investment and a great symbol of our campus and also all the other campuses that we have all around Washington State. A symbol that we know of as Wellington Wildcat. You can just go back to the next slide. So tonight, I would like to actually amend the amount that I'm requesting by lowering it by $1,000 due to some additional donations that we have. I am requesting $1,540.56 from your committee for the following reasons. Over the summer, we had some issues with essentially health and safety of the staff that were actually using the suit for their job. The suit was not, because the suit was being used so often. The conditions allowed the suit to become unusable at points until we had to clean it. But the thing is that sometimes there wasn't enough time to clean it because dry cleaning takes a period of about 4 to 5 business days. And some of the events that we had to do were within 1 to 2 days of each other. Having a second suit will allow faster turnover between events and maintenance. So while one suit is being used, one suit can be cleaned and maintained. And also, it's a really long-term investment. It's a lot of, getting a new mascot suit is a lot of money. But the thing is, if we do this, a second suit will allow the suit that we already have to last even longer. If you could please move on to the next slide. The manufacturer that we're using is a place called Street Characters Incorporated. It is a Canadian company that we have used it many years in the past. I did the research, and if we wanted to use an American company, we'd have to pay Street Characters Incorporated $5,000 for copyrights and designs, which I thought was unwise. So we decided to go with them again. they will be using the same design as the suit that we have before, have now. Some new materials will be used, of course, due to it being 5 years since we've actually purchased a new mascot suit. And the mascot will arrive early November, early to mid-November specifically. Here's the overall cost of what we have ordered. We've ordered a complete solution, which includes the suit, a new cooling vest that has which has a Camelback water bottle in it, and also it has a Street Smarts program, which is a mascot training program. It includes a DVD, booklet, everything, and well, just a DVD booklet. We'll also be we'll be ordering another cooling vest with that includes a Camelback and pocket. We'll be asking for additional 2 reservoirs and straws for the Camelback, and the total with shipping and tax goes to about $7,540.56. My goods and services budget, which is the budget that I would use to pay for this, cannot pay for the entirety of the suit due to the fact that it's only, I believe, $6,600. Yeah, approximately $6,600. With the cost of the suit being $7,500, it's not exactly ideal for me to carry the entire cost of the suit on my own, because that would be a detriment to different events my office does around campus, including Wellington's Wildfire, Weimar Night, and Fred Meyer Night. We could move on to the next slide, please. I've gone around to different organizations on departments on campus asking for partnerships with this. I got a total of $1,500 from Campus Life, $1,000 from athletics, $1,000 from the provost office, $500 from housing, $500 from the financial office, $500 from the Wildcat Shop, and $500 from the recreation center, to a total of $5,500. Also, we asked the Alumni Association if they would be willing to become a partner in this. They are willing to donate $500, but also I talked with Scott Wade, who's one of the heads of the Alumni Association, and he said that they would be willing to donate more, but we don't know the exact amount yet, so I did not include it in this amount. All right, so just to clear everything out, the total amount that I am requesting today from this committee is $1,500 for $1,540.56. Here's the this table shows here the exact cost breakdown for everything, and yes, I believe that is it. And I open myself for questions.
Great, we'll take questions from the committee. Derek?
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Thank you.
I have a question. So you requested 25, 40, 56, but you don't no longer need it, right?
At the current moment, that when I sent in the request, the total was going to be $2,540.56. But on Friday, after I turned in the request, I got notice from the recreation center and the Wildcat Shop that they would be willing to donate $500 each.
Okay. So to complete my question, can we approve the total amount that he asked for originally, or do we have to go down to this amount?
Y'all can approve whichever amount, as much as you'd like.
Okay.
Also, if I may, once I get the final amount from the Alumni Association, I will make sure to let the committee know, and any extra funds that the committee allotted, I will make sure to give back to the committee.
Any other questions? Oh, right here, Connie.
I don't have a question so much as a comment. This is such a huge benefit to everybody. I've been on many events where it would have been the same without it. It kind of concerns me a little that you mentioned there were health issues. I hate to put students or whomever, I've seen actually faculty be in the Wellington student. I hate to put any of them at health risk, so just bring that
Todd?
I've seen, I've actually been on SMA committees at another institution that brought a mascot suit. And it was probably 3 or 4 times what this is. This is a really great price.
Well, I'd like to remind the committee that this is a time for question and answer, and we'll discuss next week.
I just wonder, I wonder about I have to wonder out loud about the 5-year-old suit that's not healthy.
I know.
I'm wondering if you should be requesting 2 suits instead of 1.
That was kind of where I was
just-
going.
Yeah, if
Oh, great, okay.
if I may clarify, the new what happened with the old suit is that essentially it wasn't being cleaned enough. So health and safety did become a very large issue, and I didn't want anyone to get things such as ringworm, other funguses, things like that could be a definite health issue. So so this suit would help prevent that from happening in the future.
Miles?
So Scott, you said that if we wanted to buy the rights from the company in Canada, it would be $5,000?
It would be a total of $5,000 for the copyright plus the design.
Okay, and then so did you find out the numbers if we did make it in America or in the US? How much would it be a lot more cost effective?
I did not look into that fully. I just saw the $5,000 and said no.
Well,
Derek?
So how long is the remaining lifespan, do you estimate, of the current suit?
I would say at least another 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years? Okay.
If used at the current rate it is.
Okay, so we can say that the suit probably will last about 8 years, the new one.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
JD?
So, if the couple slides up, you detailed your budget out there, and you said that you have, I believe it was $60 per month for cleaning. Now, is that a one-time cost? Is it like for every time you go to take the suit clean, is that $60?
As far as I know, yes.
Connie?
I want to go back to that health issue because I'm still a little concerned about that. So you said it took 2 to 3 days to have the suit clean.
4 to 5 business days.
So how are 2 suits really going to be even enough then? If you've got an event, do you have? Are you still going to have an issue with being able to clean 2 suits?
No. If we have 2 suits, one suit can be sufficiently air dried and disinfected before we take it in for a deep cleaning. The dry clean is specifically for a deep overall clean to make sure that the suit can be used for another extended period.
Robert, did you?
Yeah, did you say it came with the Street Smarts DVD?
Yes.
Could you explain that, please?
What it is a mascot training program. How mascots should act around different audiences. How to take care of the specific brand of suit that we are purchasing. Also, ways that the handler should act while they're out with the mascot.
Thank you.
Derek?
I've completely forgotten my question was.
Great. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, with that, thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you all.
Oh, yeah, and we will decide next week.
Thank you very much.
And with that, I will yield the chair back to Jacob.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that, Scott. I'd like to move on to subsection 10, old business. And it doesn't look like there's much there. So move on to subsection 11, new business. No new business there either. So we'll move on to subsection 12, other business communication received. Do the advisors have any communications received? Yep, and I already. Oh, yeah. And I provided the communication from Matthew Baird. So we'll continue on to subsection 13, public comment, second call. All right. So we'll move on to subsection 14. And I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, you can make that motion.
I can't? I have to entertain
You
it?
have to entertain it.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
So moved by JD,
Acclamation.
Seconded by Derek. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, meeting's adjourned.
At what time?
7:06.